Good evening, ladies and gents. Hopefully you can hear me all right. Everything's telling me that you can hear me. Nothing is muted. So, not a bad start to a Sunday stream. Good evening and welcome in. Good to see you all. Good evening to Don Chavez, to Sloth, to Ray Lauderbeck, to Notorious Stunner, Ravenfort. Good to see you all. Yeah, it's been a couple of days, hasn't it, for all of us? Space Saga, good evening. Yeah, lots to talk about the Meteor, which we'll take a look at. We'll take a look today at the Race for Stanton event, and obviously, as the thumbnail and the title suggests, we'll take a look at some of the problems and what I think, based on very limited game knowledge, kind of game design knowledge, what I think is going on behind that. Apologies for the slightly late start. I put my glasses down somewhere, and I don't know where that where is. So my glasses are somewhere, and I can't see NAF4 without it. So if you catch me kind of going, or I misread something, I'm not being silly, I promise. It's just, I'm functionally blind now, so that's fun. Pizza but no pops to show as well. I can bring the pop, my friend. I've got a pint of the black tar here. I'm not drinking this evening. Back at work tomorrow. I've had a couple days off this week, which has been really, really helpful. Getting kind of back to some semblance of normality. Had a bit of a fun experience on the health front. Nothing serious, nothing like that. But when your body works at quite a high rate, I'll knock the sound down a bit. When your body works at quite a high rate for a sustained period of time, in my case since about mid-February, you coming down is hard, right? To kind of relax and everything else. So without provocation, regardless of what time I go to bed, I'm waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning because that's what my body has been trained to do over the course of this week, or this year, basically. And had the shakes, had the sweats and all that sort of stuff, which is all the cortisol and the adrenaline working out of the system. So, yeah, it's been a little bit hectic. It's been a little bit fraught, but we're okay now. And then we're going to do it all again for the next 4 months. Because, because civil servants do no work, remember. We're all lazy and just suckling at the government teat. So, yay. More like the Race to Server Degradation events as Stunner. Absolutely. Greetings to Citizen Ninja, to Wooter, to Pilgrim. Yeah, it's been an interesting one. Truther, hello. Welcome in, my friend. So, yeah. A little bit of chat about the Meteor already, which we'll look at in a little bit, because I want to get straight into the meat of this first. So we'll come back to those comments, or maybe I'll ask you to kind of repeat what you're saying to save me go all the way up in chat. But yeah, Apteryx, hello mate. I feel you start work at 6:30 every day and wake up at the same time on the weekend. Yeah, it's rubbish, isn't it? I've had to force myself to go back to bed to wake up, and like today, finally, I woke up at 10. So I've had 1 day of leave during the week where it hasn't been, in good enough time to get me to work, which is pants for your week off, especially when the whole point of that week was to recuperate. But we're okay now. We're all good. So let's scoot across onto the to the Race for Stanton screen and have a chat about this fun and games. So here we are, Race for Stanton, the new event for 4.2.1. This is an event, not a sandbox activity that's going to sit there forever. Oh, my camera moved. Why did you move? Why are you moving? Why are you running? Why? There you go. So there we go. And now you'll be late to work tomorrow. Stunner, never a truer word was spoken, my friend. Never a truer word was spoken. In 3 hours, I got 1 mission done. Yeah, so, okay. I'm sure you're all part of this. Just in case there's anyone in chat who have not yet had a go at this. Basically, it's a big supply run. There are 3 supplies, copper, corundum, and tungsten, which is nice because they're all lower value, much lower value supplies that you need to find by one of 4 ways. You recover it from FPS missions at underground facilities and what appear to be new surface facilities, slightly larger, which is kind of cool. They might be distribution, like outposts around distribution centres, that sort of thing, but I've never seen this design before. So that's exciting. You can get it through going into space and rescuing a ship, either by transferring the cargo onto your ship or just stealing the ship, but there's a bunch of fighters there that you are going to act as opposition. Or you can go out and mine it, and you can get missions that are open-ended that will reward you for whatever you hand in. So if you bring in a whole sea, load it all into a freight elevator, and then hand it in, you'll get rewards for all of that. Although, well done to you for mining all of that copper, tungsten, and corundum, because I can't imagine doing that. So, lots of stuff going on. Truth has been grinding since Friday, 3/4 through with all 4 factions. Wow. Well, mate, that's some effort. Well done you for persevering as much as you can. The problems with this, they wanted to circumvent a bunch of problems that they had with the previous event that ran similar lines to this. Great. What they've done is they've taken this out of all the stores. There's no queues now at the trading kiosks because you can't buy this. You can only get it in one of the 4 aforementioned ways. Great. However, the weight has not lifted off of freight elevators, which means at the missions, the hauling missions that you go to, which is the other way, apologies, you can go and pick up hauling missions from certain locations. Those locations look like the apocalypse has happened. You land, there's ships everywhere, there's Hercules mounting Hercules. There was a rather upsetting incident with a Taurus mounting an Aurora. I'm not quite sure what was going on there, but hey, get it where you can, I guess. It was a little bit kind of creepy, and the freight elevators are not working, and the problem gets worse when you go to the more popular factions. So the freight elevators are having problems depending on the server load, obviously, which for most games people will be like, duh. But of course with Star Citizen server meshing, if you were to go to Arc Corp or Crusader missions, it's much easier to pick up because far fewer people are doing them, as you can see by the progress bar. Those servers are under much less load, so their freight elevators work just fine, it seems, in 75% of cases. The minute you go to Hurston and Microtech, which are the two kind of... Hurston's very far in the lead. Microtech is well ahead of Arc Corp and Crusader, who seem to be sitting kind of like leapfrogging each other at the moment. You stand very little chance. And this is the bit in the title where I said, and blocks access. The problem is, to get access to the full range of missions, you must do one first, which requires you to interact with freight elevators. And it doesn't make sense, because you get there, there's whole bunches of people. Now, the one thing I will say is the community, the wider Star Citizen community has blown me away. With, yes, I've seen little reports of trolling and everything else, but all of my experiences, and it seems, apart from one, all the experiences of everyone when we were playing together in Discord over the weekend have been positive. I've helped people unload, not just, yeet the stuff out the freight elevator so I can get stuff. I've helped them load their ships, and these people, not unknown to me, and I checked in Discord, I was like, one of you guys kind of help me. They waited for me to do my freight elevator, even though it was 3 boxes in an Intrepid, and helped me load my Intrepid, which is really cool. So it's nice to see what the non-PvPers have been asking for a while, which is events that don't centre around people shooting each other. And I'm sure there's some isolated incidents of piracy and just general griefing and trying to take people's gameplay away from them. There always is in an MMO, that's just a risk, right? But it's been nice to see that. However, it continues to be a problem. Freight elevators have never been fixed. They've never worked fully. There's always been an issue with them. And now you've got an event that, at least to get started, relies on the use of them. Now, I will say that dropping stuff off seems to be far more reliable than picking up. The problem seems to be very much around the freight elevators that are permanent at outposts, on landing pads that are, down on these outposts, that are being used by multiple people in a very short space of time. That seems to be an issue. However, it doesn't just seem to be an input lag thing. Which brings me on to my next thing. I asked in my Discord, hello to Drop Joggett, by the way, stealthing into chat there, and Timble. Hello guys, good to see you. Drop says, Badgers, how do you think we'll actually get more ships? Ships got to get their groove on. Wait, what? What's that? Piracy? I don't know what that was a response to. Sorry, dude. Been lucky for the most part with elevators on Microtech, says Sloth. But been trying to focus on finding lower pop servers. That seems to be the key, right? It's the server jumping to, regions of the world that are in the early hours of the morning. And, of course, being off during the week helps because more people at work, less people available to play the game. So Truth has had a very good run of it, tier 4 for all. Wooter says, the problem have been there since they released the freight elevators. Exactly that. They freed the dev that created the elevators. They fired the dev that created the freight elevators, and after that, COG style ignored the problems for months to years of fixes. Yeah. Started getting hit by griefers last night, and Hurston said, Truth, that's a bit of a shame. Yeah, I mean, I don't know around the dev thing. I know they've talked recently about the fact that now what they want to do is they want to start building that resilience. I think they said the same about the ATC approach lanes, right? The person that did the ATC lanes left and nobody knows how they work. Which seems a little bit of a basic mistake to me, but, there's that. Stack, Jack Mason, get in. Welcome in both. Good to see you. Good Lord, I mashed that completely. I'm just going to give up. Honestly, I'm feeling more rested. This is me more rested. Can you imagine me exhausted? Even if you do that mission, the others either don't seem to get spawned or getting slammed so fast I don't see them. On the US, we're all fighting for what seemed like a few freight contracts. Very much seems that. Spent 4 hours last night attempting a possible fix I'd heard about. It didn't work, but did find that sometimes, leaving an area with broken elevators and coming back later, they started working again. Yeah, and it's... This is the interesting part. So there's a couple of bits that I want to focus on here. The first thing, as I was just about to say, or started saying, my question to my Discord while we were playing was, why is this not picked up in PTU? Because I don't believe that it wasn't the case, that they found this, and it actually wasn't the case. Which hints at an issue, and we talked about this, I think it was myself and maybe Tech. We talked about this because what it seems to indicate is that with the smaller numbers of people who test PTUs, even though they are filling up the shards, and you have full shards, the problem doesn't seem to be within the shard itself. The problem seems to be the weight being put on the replication layer. So this isn't about a full server, this is about the number of shards accessing the replication layer in the central database. It's the only way that I can explain, with my very limited knowledge of their back-end systems, why full servers in PTU don't encounter this problem anywhere near as much as we encounter it in PU. And the variation, the difference, the very obvious difference, is the number of shards being used in PU versus PTU. So hopefully that makes sense, and I'm sure people will have a comment about that. But that seems to be what it is. So it's clearly some optimization, maybe some issues, technical hurdles they need to do with the amount of weight being put on the replication layer, and all that sort of good stuff. Sorry, I'm going to have to knock that down again in volume because that's very loud in my ears, and then I'm just going to put the volume up for you guys. So that's a bit of an interesting one. I love the irony of Hurston being the lead but nearly unplayable. Yep, absolutely. Hepteric says, I'm glad it's falling apart. The only way they can identify the cause of failures is to force them to happen first. It's been long overdue that they stress the freight elevators. Now they're getting slammed for an entire month. We should hopefully see the fixes. Yeah, I think it would be, kind of appropriate, maybe. Is appropriate the right word? I don't think people can be... I don't think you can claim that it's unfair that people will say, well, hang on, the issues with freight elevators have been known for quite some time now. And, they don't get to go, well, we haven't had the weight. But I agree with you, now that it's been, they can't ignore this, right? I get your point. They just can't ignore it. It's that much of an issue. Wouter says, I don't play SE anymore since the beginning of this year because of issues concerning freight elevators. So I'll wait to the day I see everything work 100% of the time. Hence, I check your streams. Well, I'm glad I could be a source of information for you, buddy. But But yeah, it's that stuff. And you're on the whiskey. Good. I'm glad you're having a good Sunday. Replication layers in live be flying the white flag, giving up and just quitting. Lol. Yeah. So, I mean, what's interesting, like I said, is the loop that I've gone towards is the mining and then the hauling my own goods, right? Just transporting stuff. And that I don't have much of a problem with anymore, apart from the long-standing bugs with mining, which is, you know, sometimes you look at a rock and despite the fact you can mine it, the bar doesn't actually appear that shows you the optimal power and then the overload, so you end up blowing the rock up because you can't judge the power and the rate and everything else to actually break the rock open. So other than losing a not insignificant number of rocks that I could have mined and had materials I needed, I didn't get to because mining bugs. Yay! But that's that, and we're just going to have a look very quickly through the tier rewards, and this because this will explain the next bit that I'm going to talk about. I even made a Spectrum post, and I know I made a good point because it got completely ignored by pretty much everyone. That's what happens when you make good points on Spectrum. The other thing that will happen is that people will purposely misinterpret your point. But I actually said in it, I can't wait for people to try and misinterpret this, so they've obviously not bothered, which is quite good fun. Do I currently drink anything? I'm enjoying some Aberfeldy 12 years single malt. So my choice, mate, and you'll have seen this, in fact this might be the same bottle, from CitizenCon. Talisker, 10-year-old. I'm a big fan of Talisker, from the Isle of Skye. So if I'm drinking spirits, it's that. I like my port and my red wine, like my cider, and I like certain beers. And I've got one of these up here. I actually left this up here from last night. I was going to have it. It's one of my favourite beers at the moment is Brewdog Elvis Juice. And depending on how I'm going later on in the stream, I might crack this open because it's an IPA, so it doesn't need to be refrigerated massively. So yeah, but yeah, I have a I also found cocktails. Basically, I'm a Matlow professional drinker. There's not a lot I won't drink in a push. Don't be rude. So yeah, so there's that. So your tier rewards. Now the way you get your tier rewards is you submit through whatever of the means a certain number of SCU to each faction to get to certain tiers. Tier 1 is the jumpsuit, hat, grey cap, pyro multi-tool branded for your faction. As we go through, each of these will be branded for the factions. You can work for all 4 factions. You can work for whichever ones you choose. You can get them to whatever tier that you want. Tier 2 is a set of armor and a laser pistol. The new Vault 1. Tier 3 is skins for the Aurora, Zeus, and Crusader. And then a Vault laser shotgun. 4, Raft, Freelancer, and Constellation skins, plus the Quartz Energy SMG. And then tier 5, which is the interesting tier, Starlancer, Caterpillar, and Crusader Hercules, plus a Vault Parallax Energy Assault Rifle. Again, all of this branded to your faction that you're working for. Now, the reason 5 is interesting is not so much what's in it, is what happens if you're at tier 5 with the faction that you with the faction that wins at the end of this event. Rashmordo, hello, buddy. Good to see you. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well. Now, basically, what happens if you're at tier 5 is the faction that wins will get a 5% discount at their low Earth orbit station, at their major landing zone. So, for example, New Babbage will get Port Tressler, New Babbage, 5% off everything that's sold there, regardless of who sells it or what it is. Everything. They will also take control of the Pyro Stanton Gateway permanently. And that gateway station will be renamed to something along that kind of corpse lines. You'll also get a 5% discount there. You will also get a suit of armor that, and do you know what, I'm just going to skip across, right? So let's have a look at, here you go, so ArcCorp. So there's your tier 1, there's your tier 2, along with your weapons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Your skins, tier 3, tier 4, and tier 5. And then, basically, the armor stays the same at tier 5. If you are at tier 5, when that corp wins the overall event, you get the Strata Black armor, which is then branded and highlighted to suit your chosen faction. So that's the Art Corp one. Looking at the Crusader stuff, obviously Crusader branded, and you can see that the highlights have changed, different logo, different tint on the glass, and all that sort of stuff, right? This is a really bad time to pick up the hiccups. I don't know why, but thanks very much for that. Hammer Berlin, welcome, buddy. I think CIG pushed the event into PU because they knew there's a problem with the elevators, but it does not show up in PTU, so no way to localize this problem, but I'm no expert. Yeah, funny enough, Wuta made, I think it was Wuta, have made a very similar point in that at least this pushes things to the front of the front of CIG's kind of priority queue when everyone is whinging about it. Sloss says, I spent 4 hours last night attempting a possible fix I'd heard about. It didn't work, but did find that sometimes leaving an area broken elevators come back again and start working again. So I think I read the last part of that previously, but yes. So hopefully that works. Only the winning corp gets the black armor. Exactly that. So that last set of armor, the 5% discount on this armor, only the winning corp gets it. And you only get it if you are at tier 5. So if you're tier 4, tier 3, tier 2, you will not get that, even if your corp wins. However, that corp will get 5% across the landing zone, and I think everyone gets that regardless of tier. That wasn't really kind of specified. But yeah, that it's just a 5% discount. And of course, although this is, I've got no way to confirm this, it would seem that Hurston would make a lot of sense because some of the more popular ships are sold there. The big ones. Also, I guess a lot of their weapons look really cool. Not bad skins either. But yeah, some of their weapons look pretty hot, actually. But of course, 5% off a hammerhead is not an inconsiderable amount of credits either. So yeah. Great, all I have to do now is find a functional Harrison starter mission. Exactly that space. And that's the problem we're talking about. And this is why this sort of event is stopping people from getting into this, this area. I mean, they actually talked about, and I know I'm basically creating more work for them, but the starter mission could have been very much like the Constantine Harrison mission, where the starter missions you go and visit your rep, and they are physically somewhere. And maybe that's the only time you interact with them for now, but they've talked about wanting to add more NPC interactions for missions within the verse. That would be cool if they had done that for this, because then it moves away from the whole, everything in your mobiGlas, which is the other bit I want to talk about a little bit later on. Now, the reason I'm not sure, so one of the posts that I put on Spectrum, in fact, I very rarely post on Spectrum because it is such a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Good lord, I murdered that as well. That was going to be really cool that I was just going to throw that in there and move on, and now I screwed it. But the reason I don't like Spectrum is because people just jump on and tend to misinterpret. But the post that I put on, I think, still holds valid, which is there was only ever going to be one winner. And I think once you get to kind of the 2/3 and onwards mark, whoever's leading at the 2/3, or more to the point, whoever's in the lead, will continue to be in the lead. Because what will happen is everyone, because of the FOMO, because they've said that suit of armor, the tier 5 stuff, this thing here, right? They've said basically that the winning faction will see that, and then the others, Elliot Maltby's words, will not see the light of day. So there is a significant bit of FOMO here, right? For people who want to say, hey, I got that piece of armor, and put it on display somewhere in their hangar or in their ship or whatever. The problem is that people will go to that first because they're like, well, they're winning, so I'm going to get tier 5 and then worry about the other stuff, right? Which is the one problem. And if there was a finish line, as they got like 66% of the way there, people will be like, well, I don't want to miss out on a suit of armor, so I'm going to make sure I get tier 5 with them first before they get across the line, especially with how unreliable everything's been at the minute. You kind of can't reliably last minute this stuff. And then what will happen is they'll then go and get the other stuff that they want. Now, I had 2 suggestions for them. The first suggestion was that what they could do is they could do this another way. Is they could give 5% to the winning corp and everyone else gets the armor. Right? because then what it does is it actually generates a race. Now the race isn't about making sure you don't miss out on a suit of armor. Now it is genuinely about, maybe you even support the one whose armor you don't like, right? And then get all the other bits of armor that you do. But knowing what people are like on Spectrum, I said, well, okay, I get that what would normally happen here is people go, oh, you're just being a Care Bear and you just want everyone to get a reward. It's like, well, okay, tier it. The winning corp at the end gets the 5% discount across its locations and the armor. The second one gets armor, the other two get nothing. And that way then, there's still a competition, there's still active competition for second place, even if it's not first. At the moment, I would be very surprised if by the end of this event, the only order that I'm really not sure about will be ArcCorp Crusader. And that's it. Everything else, there's also with this, there's no drive to do anything above what you want. That there isn't the sense from this event, the way it's been put together, the way it works, there isn't a sense of we've got to work together to overcome something. This is still a case of, well, I don't like any of the Crusader stuff, so I'm not doing it. If they put in some sort of target towards the end to say the only way you get the suit of armor is if, from the winning faction, is if all the factions cross a certain line, they get a certain amount of supplies. Now there's a reason to help out. Even if the in-game lore is that helps overcome the regen crisis, but the real reason we're doing it is we want a suit of armor, at least there's a sense of, well, I don't even want this, but I'm doing it so that I get the suit of armor, everyone gets the suit of armor. Am I just ranting now? Have I lost the plot? Or what I liken it to is in World of Warcraft there was the Gates of Anchorage event. And what happened was it was a new raid, but it was locked behind a resource drive, very much like this. This is how old this concept is, right? What you had to do was it was basically like preparing for war. It was preparing for the invasion and the assault on the Gates of Anchorage. So you had to give in supplies and weapons and medical supplies and all that sort of stuff. And each shard had its own goals. Now, obviously, it wouldn't work quite like this, but the point was that when your shard hit all of the goals, Anchorage opened for you. And then, if you were on a particularly low-pop shard, after a certain date, Anchorage would open for everyone. But the harder you worked, the faster you got access to Anchorage. So you had people doing stuff they didn't want to do. I hate farming linen for bandages, but I'm going to do it now because that's what we need left, and I want to get into that event. So there was more of a sense of the server working together, or the shard working together, to achieve something. And that seems to be lacking from this. I love the fact that we are all working together, or more to the point, we're not getting in each other's way is probably a better way of putting it. You know, we're not actively trying to obstruct each other. We probably accidentally do it quite a bit, but it's not an intentional thing, 9 times out of 10. Yeah, so I think that's the thing for me, is that, you know, and this will lead us quite nicely into the last point I want to make about this event, which is, you know, it just, it shows a very basic approach to mission design. And I'm trying to word this as constructively as I can. This, funny enough, is not designed to bash CIG. And hopefully from watching streams you guys know this and you know where I'm coming from. But it is a concern of mine now that a lot of the mission design and the approach to the mission sign feels very basic and very rudimentary. And of course that's going to be natural to an extent, because I'm sure what's happening is they're being told, I'm sure, you know, the idea of, well, why don't we have the representatives for each faction physicalized? I'm sure someone made that suggestion, and they got told, no, we don't have the time in the schedule for more mocap because the priority is Squadron 42 or whatever else, you know, or we don't have the budget right now to go and get a bunch of other actors because that money's all allocated elsewhere. And that makes sense, right? Right, I'm going to catch up the comments now because I've gone up. Rash says, I'm okay with it not being a physical NPC, and for this mission, this is a one and done type of mission. Yeah, absolutely. I think the reason I like that is because those representatives don't have to be a common, they don't have to be just part of the event. They can be ongoing, basic ground level mission reps for that faction going forward. Full stop. The end. What I was trying to actually deal with there, Rash, because I realised you popped in partway through me saying that, what I was trying to deal with is the problem that the gateway missions rely on broken freight elevators. If it had been a meet the NPC, even if it had been part of an instanced thing or whatever, right, that would have helped more. Like the Constantine Hurston mission. Again, that might be a problem because lots of people would do it, and maybe it creates another bottleneck. I don't know, and that would be a very good reason not to do it. But there's that. I truly feel CIG should do less events this year and focus more on fixes. This is just more of the shame from the last few years. Also, why is there no tech preview for engineering and other tech like dynamic server meshing? Dynamic server meshing is going to be a long way out. I think we're waiting on other things before dynamic, purely because, and the reason I say that, Wooter, is I think what they need to do is they need to get a much more complete idea of the core systems before they can determine what functions being done by the server can be handed over to dynamic server meshing and what stuff needs to be more central or authoritative, right? So yes, that basically. Because what they, being able to take a bunch of functions and spin them up in a way, I don't think they can just do that with anything. I think there needs to be specific preparation work. Like, for example, someone goes and fires, there's a battle going on and 700 missiles get fired in the space of a minute. You'd hope that they go, okay, that's a spawnable weapon system that takes quite a lot of server thinking, so we can spin up a server and go, okay, take on the missile functions from this area. And the server, okay, and takes that on and that sort of stuff. I don't think they've got a complete picture yet, because they don't know how it all works yet, of what they can hand over to dynamic server meshing and what needs to stay on a single server for the location. And that's the only reason. The event sort of stuff, I mean, if what this is doing is, as you've said and as other people have said, is testing certain functions and stressing the hell out of it, so they've got the data to really drill down into it, then fine. It's just going to be a bit of a pain, because I'm sure there are people who are working incredibly hard who can't get to this other than the weekends. I'm not talking about myself here, I've just had a week off. But, who are going to try to achieve this, who won't be able to, because a lot of the playtime they have is plagued by poor systems. And not everyone's got the 3 mil they need to throw at a prospector right now. So they can't go and do the other stuff. The FPS missions are a lot of effort for what you get out of it. The underground facility ones, we must have fought, or I must have fought about 20 guys outside, including respawns, and they continually respawn for 5 SCU. And then you fight the same number of guys downstairs with continuous respawns, and then you've got to put your weapon away, leave yourself defenseless for a moment, and then move the containers up onto the lift, and then up and out, and then of course it's got 3 turrets running, so then somehow you've got to get 5 SCU worth of stuff to your ship if you're not very good at taking out turrets. It's just not a legit way of doing it. And they kind of said that. They said that there was only one FPS way of doing it, because it's not designed to be an FPS event. So yeah, they should have done it like, yeah, everyone's tier 5 on the winning faction get the armor for free, but the other factions would get the armor in game for credits. I mean, potentially, even if they wanted to make it a reward, right? What I'm saying is the reward should have been geared somewhere that it still instilled competition. I just feel like the way this is done, predictably, whoever was in the lead come the halfway mark. And I know there's not a finish line, but, everyone that comes in and has a go at it is going to be, well, I'll get to, because lots of people, as we've said, won't be tier 5 yet. Hurston jetted away at the beginning and is just continuing to accelerate. So, yeah. Here he goes again, making common sense. You always get in trouble that way. Yeah, sorry, Jekyll. I'm sorry, not sorry, I guess. That's just going to keep happening. Ty Freeboard. Apologies, mate. I've not got my glasses on, so I had to lean forward to see that. Welcome in, buddy. CIG should just fix stuff. Wait on the new features and chips. Yeah, so there aren't really any new features, with the exception of a couple things, and they're not really new features. They're just, the weather and stuff was practically there anyway, I'm guessing, from what's going on. you know, the storyline that the thing is to fix it, you've got to diagnose it. So if that's what's going on, if the delay, and this is an if the delay has been, they've not been able to drill down into freight elevators precisely what the problem is, this is a really good way to get a crap ton of data to find out what the problem is. Because if you have everyone in the game overloading your freight elevators, you're going to find the problem, right? You're going to find the bottleneck. So yeah, here's hoping that that's what's happening. I might just say you need to do one corp in full and midway on a secondary, so it's like supporting a collab between two corps. Yep, that's another way they could do it, absolutely. Apteric says, the thing which I find weird is the rewards out of game are driving the lore in-game. On the whole, people are backing Hurston because the rewards look good, not for the corp itself. Yeah, and that bit, I mean, that's just gaming, right? That's gaming through and through. We had this conversation, again, using Warcraft as the example. One of the previous patches, I forget which one it is, there were 4 factions. You could align with one mass wrap. People chose the one that was going to give them the best in slot kit. It had nothing to do with anything else. It didn't even really have to do with the visuals, right? It had to do with where's my best in slot coming from. Regardless of whether you liked the kit, you liked the faction, you enjoyed the missions, it was just a grind for that. This is obviously about visuals, but that's what it's about, right? And this is a problem gaming is always going to struggle to overcome. So yeah, until and if and until even they decide to make the planets meaningfully different. So for example, when it gets to the point where guns can be used and all this sort of stuff, and you go down on the planet and they actually react differently to you, if Hurston is a much more controlling kind of totalitarian planet to visit, you might then find people not wanting to do that. Let's say, for example, thinking of, you know, Half-Life 2 and the Combine guys that go around just randomly beating on people. If Hurston does something similar and that can happen to you too, like, that would have a meaningful impact, I think, on the players that wanted to get it, because people just, I'm not going down there. I get beaten up by guards, I've got no means of doing anything about it, I'm not going to Hurston, I'm just not doing it. I get fined for no reason, I've got to buy people off. Like, it makes sense, right? So, yeah. At AQ times, gaming was seen very differently. Yes and no, I think, you know, no new ideas under the sun, right? What I'm getting at there is that it had that sense of working together to solve a problem that none of us caused. Exactly the same as the resource drive, you know, for dealing with the regen crisis. I was thinking it would have been cool to have a Vandal battlefield between clans. Found that we had to stealth, steal, salvage, collect resources to solve the crisis. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we see that sort of stuff in the future. Obviously now there's just not the assets and stuff for it. But yes, something like that in the future will be very, very cool, no doubt. The corp rewards were more specific with the rewards and maybe an unannounced small drawback as well. As if as a player base we didn't collect enough resources in total, then the crisis continues and the areas we have to go to in future to collect them get more dangerous. Yeah, or a respawn tax. And again, that's problematic, right? Because someone's going to say, what happens if you've got no money and then you die? Do you not respawn? Do you go into negative? Like, how does that work? And they'd be right. But yes, some sort of respawn tax. Don't know. But yeah, some sort of drawback to it would have been good. So, Cobus, love the name, dude. You just were trying to make it hard for me to pronounce stuff. I'm going to murder this. But, Cobus Kalstraya, hopefully that's not too far from what it is. If they're testing this, then why haven't we been informed about it? I mean, yeah, I kind of get that, but it wouldn't be the first time they've kind of done something and then gone, oh, we get it. Also, the entire thing is a test. You know, I think it might be, I don't know, it's a bit of a, they shoot themselves in the right foot if they announce that they're going to make gameplay hard for us to diagnose an issue. They shoot themselves in the left foot if they don't announce it and we have to do it and find out about it afterwards. So, I mean, it's just pick your foot, basically, isn't it? But yeah. I mean, Hearthstone also does look way better. The white and blue paints are kind of meh. Agreed. I like Hearthstone a lot more than I like everything else. You know, the Microtech stuff. I mean, the white is probably my second on the weapons. On the ships, it's probably more Art Corp. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, and this up here, the Strata Microtech. No, just no, no, not so much. Um, and then having black armor and putting white and luminous green on it, just shoot me here, I guess. I think I'm going to mine this event. Yeah, okay. It's funny enough. That's what I've been giving a go, and it's been a lot less stressful. Especially when you realise, you know, look outside of, and I'm sure you have. I'm sure you don't know this advice, but just in case anyone does, look outside where it tells you to mine. Yep, there are lots of locations to get corundum, tungsten, and copper. Just, you don't have to go to the places it tells you, because persistence is affecting mineral nodes, so you will go to places and find that if you're in a prospector, only the rocks that can be mined by moles are left in a very large area, as I discovered today. So yes, there's all that sort of stuff. Apteric says, how about this solution? If you complete the winning faction, you get a 5% discount of their shops. If your home location is set to theirs, nail your colours to the mast. Again, I mean, yes, I guess so. Oh, I don't like that. There's something there that makes me think, I guess it's the temporary nature of home locations, right? I like the fact that what they've set out to do is they've set out to create a lasting effect. Even if it is something as simple as a 5% discount and naming a gateway station that already exists. I do like that they're trying to do these little things just to, I guess, throw us a bone, right? TJ, hello, bud. Well, if they weren't spending 90% of the time tossing out PvP shooting events, maybe just one of the PvE events would actually flip in a way. But no, this exposes just how things are with PvE. Yeah, and I think, you know, we've had events with freight elevators before, right? We had Blockade Runner, we had all that sort of stuff. I just think because there were, I don't think they, well, they said it in the video, right? They weren't expecting everyone to do the commodity shop stuff, which is really interesting because people said that broke it, and it absolutely broke commodities 100%, but there were other ways of getting the materials you needed. If they give you 4 ways of getting it and one way is broken, it's not a broken event. Your chosen way of doing it is broken. This is slightly different because, as we've had a couple of people say, like Space Saga, is, you know, the problem is they can't get the introductory mission, which opens up the other stuff to complete because the freight elevators are booked. That's different. You're removing access because the first mission that opens up everything else relies on a broken system, which is a bit silly. But yeah, Socially Confused. Hello, buddy. Welcome in. So what you're saying is Hearthstone Dynamics bought their way to a win by providing flashier loot, working missions and elevators, making their head start clear, and crushing their corporate competitors. I mean, the first half of that, 100%. Providing flashier loot, yes. Working missions, no. People are having a real problem getting into Hearthstone, even with their lead, because those servers are overwhelmed. It's those freight elevators that are having the most problem. Hello, Sebastian. Good to see you, buddy. Just delay the respawn. If you can't pay, you go to the back of the line. Then players are forced to make money. You still can have ship respawns. Just make them start costing some resources. Yeah, and look, I think the other thing as well, right, is that the other thing that you can do is you can create a tax system, right? If there's a cost to respawn, you don't incur it immediately. If they're below a certain amount, what you do is you take it out of their next paycheck, right? There's loads of ways to do it that don't impact gameplay. They go, hey, the next mission you do, we're taking 10 grand off you for respawning. Wop wop. So you've still got enough to buy yourself some ammo for a gun and get some sustenance so you don't die before you achieve anything. But you don't, you know, when you get paid, they garnish your wages, which, you know, worryingly, why are we advocating this game basically becomes like real life? They shoot themselves either way. Cobus, you're entirely right. They do. And I think we had a really interesting chat in the Discord about this. Discord's been really active, which has been great to see. If you're not in, links in the Discord in the description below. So feel free to come in as long as you're happy with the rules. If not, thanks for looking. But yeah, we had a really interesting discussion about this. In the one of the things CIG can do to stop a lot of the anger and that in the community was to not communicate at all. Because a lot of the frustration is around, you said this and you said that, and those two things can't be true at the same time, even though they're 5 years apart. You know, oh my God, we need clarity on this. And like, there isn't anything we don't need clarity on right now. I think the only things, maybe not even this, you know, we know what star systems they want in for 1.0. That's like a pretty, you know, as a minimum for 1.0. That's about the only thing I can say for certain. And the other thing I will say, the two other things we'll say for certain, it'll be ready when it's ready, and they reserve the right to have a better idea. Those are the only things I know for certain about this entire damn project. And you know, sometimes when they're doing their best to try and say things, they say things they realise that it's not going to work for whatever reason, and then they change it, and then we get angry. And some of the ways to do that is just not communicate. You know, so, and I'm not advocating for that. I'm saying that's a way to massively reduce people getting angry about things changing, is if you don't tell them, they don't know there's been a change. So, you know, I think that's kind of, I guess that's a slight warning towards be careful what we wish for. You know, we've had this with the roadmap. They did this to us. We did this to ourselves when we bitched every time something's changed. We're like, hey, cool, you get one patch out, that's it. So we've caused this already. You know, I think we've got to be a little bit careful about how we approach. That is not to say that as a community we should be thankful for what we're given, and we do not like, you know, we do not try and change the things that need to be changed and hold them to a decent standard. Absolutely not. I'm not advocating that for a second. We absolutely should. We're involved in this project in a way very few people are ever involved in gaming projects, especially ones of this magnitude. And they are actively inviting our feedback, therefore we should give it. But I think we've got to be careful in the way we give it. What the problem is, why the problem's been caused, what we think the solution is, rather than, you know, oh my God, something's happened, so what I'm going to do, and I'm not saying this is what you're doing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the worst possible interpretation and then decide that that's why it's happened. So it's just a little bit of being careful about how we deal with stuff, because that sort of approach, what happens on the other side of that debate is like, well, why am I even trying? Why am I trying to appease anyone? Because they're just going to assume the worst anyway. So the best way to do this is to not engage with this at all, and that's how that kind of spirals. You may not like it, but the Microsoft gear is what peak style looks like. Then I am glad I am not stylish, sir. The Strata black armor in the picture reminds me of the Lego guys from the old space exploration sets. Well, now I really want one. Thanks, Sebastian. Mining can be relaxing, especially when Global is complaining about elevators. Absolutely. I found it kind of very cool. While it is very generous with Corundum, it is. That's where I've been mining. Great minds think alike, mate. Absolutely that. HRTs that have caterpillars as their targets are given second life resources, by the way. 4 for 4 so far. Wow. So yeah, if you get a HRT with a caterpillar, there are resources on board. That's a nice way to do that. Top tip there, Jackal. You did mention that in the Discord, actually, and I did put that on my list. But I've not got there yet. It's too far down. Rewarding people for staying longer with the top tips. Sorry, yes. And yeah, intro missions are a pain. I was only able to do one. Yeah. And this is the problem. Slightly disappointed there was no interfere with competitor missions for the less legal players to keep them occupied away from the rest of us. Oh, I see what you mean. So they go after the kind of like NPC ships to stop them. Yeah, and I'm sure that sort of stuff will come in the future. Let's hello, bud. This sad new armor shown here looks like Lego made it. Absolute garbage. I like Lego. But I mean, it misses the grabby hands, right? But yeah, Yeah, look, I get it. That is just, I just want to vomit over everything endlessly. Seeing that, that's just gnarly, right? I don't like that at all. But I get it. When is a four-letter word? Matthew, hello. Regarding the changes, they've even refused to answer tickets if the Idris aftermarket kit has been changed to the new Idris K kit. Yeah, I don't know about that. I haven't seen anything about it. The Lego comment makes me like the armor more. Yeah, absolutely. But I think what I will say is this: is kudos to Star Citizen and to CIG for coming up with an event that a lot of people have been asking for, which is the PvE, not combat, not shoot each other, not interfere, not be arseholes, just get stuff done. Doing this at locations with armistice zones has been a stroke of genius. Well done for that. So them just being careful, I think, and allowing us to do this is kind of key, kind of important. So yeah, thanks, Rash. We got all that. So yeah, okay, I'll take a look in that in a second. But Rash has linked me some very interesting stuff, and I'll take a look just before the end of the stream. So yeah, totally motivated for Friday night. Wearing Microtech armor. I miss Xeno Threat for end of PvE and PvP. I don't know. I do feel like Xeno Threat was more PvP than it was PvE, bizarrely, because people decided to get in and take Xeno Threat's side. So I died more to players in Xeno Threat than I did to NPCs. But yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting for Siege of Orison to come back, because I think that on its own server within the Shard, with the AI acting like they're acting elsewhere, I think that's going to be utterly terrifying. I think that's going to be really, really scary. But yes, so an interesting mix of bits and pieces. So the Meteor then, I'm going to zoom in here so we can see a little bit more. Moving on to the Meteor then, Interceptor, medium fighter now, because it was touted as a heavy fighter for a long old time. Interceptor, medium fighter from RSI. We have their Q&A that's come out. It's been on the website, but we all know gamers don't read, so let's take a very quick look at it. Is it designed with a particular type of enemy in mind, such as other fighters, bombers, or large targets? The Meteor is classified as a medium fighter, albeit with some larger size 5 weapons, so it's intended to take on larger targets, such as heavier fighters and smaller multi-crew ships. However, the size 3 weapons also provide appropriate firepower when dealing with smaller threats. And we've seen that. The ammunition speed, or the speed of the shot from the size 5s is slow. You're going to struggle to dogfight with that. And I think we've had a couple people say that in chat already, that they like the Meteor, but it's not a dogfighter. Or they don't like a Meteor because it's not a dogfighter. Regarding its guns and missiles, would you clarify which components are swappable? So the size 3s and the additional missile hardpoints are swappable with any compliant option. The size 5s are bespoke and are not, and the integrated missile launchers are not swappable. And I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. We know with the bespoke stuff, just like with the upcoming God machine that is the Perseus, bespoke guns don't get swapped out. As we know, new RSI ship interiors typically follow one of two styles. Military is seen in the Polaris, or civilian like the Zeus. Which design direction does the Meteor follow, and how does that choice reflect its intended role? That is not a community question. That's a them question. Or they've significantly spruced something up. Or Benedict Cumberbatch has decided to start playing Star Citizen. One of the three. The Meteor shares a lot of civilian Zeus style kits as it befits the smaller size of the ship, despite it being combat focused. Okay, fine. It means nothing. Is the Meteor considered a variant of the Mantis, and will it be compatible with Mantis paints? Yes. Oh, what? No. Wait, what? Why not? Why doesn't it share paints on the Mantis? I know it's got the extra bits around it, but still, the Constellation paints, there are some significant, like the Taurus is bigger. It's a different ship. It's longer. It's got a longer... Well, that's pants. That caught me out. I'm surprised that that's not the case. As a variant, does that mean the Vanguard paints are all, the Vanguards are all starting to get individual paint? That's shit. Excuse my language. Yeah. So more money as well, yes, quite. Meteor me like equals me buy with credit. Nice. Tried the Meteor, would have gotten the Guardian instead if it was available. Mate, that's a bit of a shame. Gotta go, have a good one. Wuta, take care, man. All the best. Thank you for popping in, my friend. Implementation was bad, but the idea was good. Just having NPCs needing resources for a war while players projectile cargo runners, protect the cargo runners and capturing cargo combat paths. Yeah, agreed, 100%. That's good. Good stuff. Besides having more weapons and lacking the QED, what other differences does the Meteor have? It's got a higher SCM, while the Meteor has a higher. Mantis has a higher SCM. Meteor has a higher nav speed, at the expense of minor rotational and maneuvering performance, and I've had a lot of people say that. The Interceptor archetype seems to really affect the turn performance, more than they're indicating here. While both the Meteor and the Mantis are tuned to the Interceptor archetype, it differs enough that it excels in straight line performance over its brethren. Fine. The Meteor seems to combine the best aspects a ship can offer: power, agility, and long-range capability. With so many strengths, what are its drawbacks? Wow. Bespoke size 5 cannons pack a punch. Yep, they come at a cost. You're locked into ballistics. Agreed. Limited ammo, slower fire rates, and slower round velocity as well. It differs from the strong unified damage archetypes often found in heavy fighters. Its hull strength and size 1 shields say are more in common with frequent light fighter tunings. The intention here is to make the Meteor a truly unique offering within the medium. So, glass cannon is what they're talking about. Hits hard, does not take hits. Glass cannon. Fine. Which I think the issue there is not a lot. That when the Meteor initially got touted as a heavy fighter, people were expecting something to be much more durable, and of course that's a change. And see my earlier comments about changing something. Sometimes it's better just not to say anything in the first place. What ship would be considered a direct competitor? This is a tricky question. The Meteor straddles the light, medium, and heavy fighter categories. It compares with the shielding of the light fighters, flight performance of medium, and the armament of heavy, whilst maintaining many trade-offs. Within just the medium fighter lineup, it sits alongside the Mark II in damage output, potentially beating it in straight line performance while sometimes struggling to match its maneuverability. Okay, fine. Which, I suppose, if an Interceptor has higher straight line, which you'd expect with an Interceptor, right? Catching up with stuff, getting out ahead of stuff, that sort of thing. To then, kind of give it better turn rate just makes it better across the board, and that's quite problematic. Does it make sense Guardian paints are compatible between QI and MX? Yeah, that. Even the Prowlers share paints. The Paladin and Valkyrie. Now this does not. Kind of selfish, to be honest. I really don't see the role the Meteor fits, to be fair. Excluding the nacelles, it's the size of a medium fighter. Squishy DPS instead of tanky DPS. Exactly that, Chavez. That's what it is. The Meteor carries a considerable amount of weaponry. Can its power plant generate enough power to effectively support its weapon systems whilst maintaining full functionality? One of the main reasons for equipping the Meteor with bespoke ballistic cannons rather than energy weapons was to ensure the ship has appropriate power for the pilot to manage. So basically, yes, that's why you don't have laser main guns. Does its hull or component layout allow for better serviceability or survivability? So it just say yes, you can get access to components from within the ship. It doesn't really answer the survivability question. Again, because Armour's not in, they can't answer this question because they don't know yet. Or if they do, it's not finalised and they're not at the point they're going to say anything to us. So, yeah, that. As a powerful medium fighter, what level of signature does the Meteor emit while operating combat readiness? The Meteor has a higher than average signature. High offensive ability comes at the cost of being visible. Yeah, well, 100%. No dedicated cargo bridge. No dedicated cargo grid, not bridge. That's what I meant to say. I guess it's kind of got some of the same letters. That's my excuse anyway. During the development of the Meteor, were any quality of life improvements made? This is actually quite an in-depth answer, which is kind of cool. So developing the Meteor, as you would expect, allowed them to go to look at the Mantis at the same time. Beyond the interior changes, we also implemented a new back-end for the interdiction system that restores the snaring functionality of the Mantis to near pre-server meshing. This means that players can now snare a ship that starts a QT jump from another server, a limitation that previously arose after server meshing. So, they're going to bring more improvements. So, 1. Preventing players from calibrating to a nav target whilst inside a snaring field. Interesting. So not just does it stop you from jumping, if you knock the shield out, you then need the time to calibrate your nav computer before you jump. Resolving occasional cases of players rubber banding back to the that's rubbish. Fix that quickly. Fixing an issue where the snare device may not charge properly. Toggling it on and off or waiting briefly can help. And then snares can still catch ships that begun quantum travel before the snare is activated. So yeah, so basically making it work again, right? So yeah, and then the bit that people won't read is this is what we're going to change, what we're going to do now, but we reserve the right to have a better idea. And that's the bit that no one reads, right? Because they'll just get angry and go, but they said... Yeah, but they also said. So, there's that. I tried the Meteor and I don't like it. No, socially, how come? It doesn't make sense. Guardian paint's compatible. Sorry, yes, we did say that. Yeah, exactly that. I can see it more doing strafing runs on PDCs or putting heart on larger targets, but at distance it's too squishy to dogfight effectively. So yeah, basically it's against the bigger stuff, right? They've said that it's against heavy fighters and smaller multi-crew ships, the interceptor roles. So you're basically trying to catch up with Connies and MSRs and all that sort of stuff, and then have enough weaponry to get there. It being a fighter doesn't automatically put it in the realm of fighting other fighters, right? Fighters can fight other things other than the same class. So yeah, that's what you're after. You know, exploration ships that are coming up against Valkyries, and you know, as a defensive ship or something to stop people landing against your base site. Meteor is going to be great at stuff like that. So yeah. Would rather see those bespoke guns on a Zeus variant of Space Saga. Honestly, I'd swap all of the size 3 to slow cannons, and it utterly dwarfs the glaive in almost every metric. Well, that's why they haven't. Right? Why would you release a ship that invalidates another ship? And I know some ships have done that. I get it, but that doesn't mean they should do it again. Meteor will probably be better received if it had size 4 hardpoints and a little cheaper instead of bespoke. It is quite expensive. I agree. It's not, and apologies, it's in, you know, British pounds. It's in God's currency, not that, you know, colonial rubbish. But it's not cheap. It really is not cheap. It's pretty damn expensive. Not flown it. Happy to have not flown it. But there's plenty of people who have them. I think I'll pinch one of Dell's to borrow, if that's right with you, Dell, when you watch this. But just to have a look and have a wander around. But yeah, I mean, it's just a shame that those paints don't work across both variants. I think that's a real shame. That is a real shame, and you know, frankly, not a great decision, CIG. Not a great decision. You know, here's the problem, right? Is that when you do variants, when you do these, and I know people called them kind of low effort, and we talked about that last stream, and I'm not going to rehash that ground, but when they are so close, when they are based off the same chassis, not doing so is just cynical. You know, we didn't get a brand new fighter. We shouldn't have to be buying brand new paints. We got something based off another chassis. Don't stop doing that, please. So yeah. So yeah, I mean, not massively, you know. So 240 here. I don't know what that is in dollars. I think is it 240 here and then like 260 there. I think something like that. But yeah, it's. I mean, great if you like it. I always say this about ships, right? Is that the thing is that the only question is whether or not you can afford it. Sometimes there are just ships that you want, and if this is one of those ships for you, that's great. It is a little bit eye-watering as fighters go. You know, you can get a whole lot of ship for less money than that. So, but yeah, especially with how expensive the paints are. Yeah, and I think they might justify that price a little more if they went across both variants, and that's the thing, right? Is you're probably going to sell more if it goes across but where you are, because some people will have the Mantis and not have this. You would have sold more. Full stop. The end. And then you could justify it and say, hey, a little bit more work went into it because the body tops aren't quite the same, and it wasn't just a case of we could wrap it around and make it work. So you are actually getting two types of skins in one, and whilst that might not benefit you individually, we did have to put the work in, and therefore we get to charge more for it. Like, that would be a little bit more justifiable, right? Whereas at the moment, it's not, which is really disappointing. Yeah, I don't know what to go. So I don't know what else to say about the Meteor. It's fighters, and at the moment, I don't really enjoy fighters enough to spend a huge amount of time. I have the Guardian QI, which is a little bit of fun. I got to fly that around a bit over this weekend, so I quite enjoyed that. Thanks, Jamlack. But you know, fighters are not my main gameplay loop at the minute, and I think there's so much that we're waiting for to happen in that space. The flight model's not in a great place, as I'm sure I don't need to tell a single person on the stream, and so on and so forth. You know, it's armor not coming in, you know, weapon systems being in a strange place, all that sort of stuff. There's a little bit, you know, to do. So not into fighters. Not a huge amount on the roadmap update. We got a Volt Laser Sniper, which is interesting, although it automatically charges. So rather than having to hold it down, you get to, you know, have it charge whilst you're repositioning or whilst you're waiting for the shot or whatever. But it does become much louder, apparently. And then heat, again, like everything. Don't manage your heat. Weapon no-go, boom. Dynamic snow, like dynamic range, rain, the light combat stealth suit, which I think is on the cards itself. Let's have a look. Just do it this way instead. Boing. So yeah, you're gonna. Oh. Let me scroll down. Yeah, so some of the armor stuff here. Characters, this stuff. Yeah, so there's sniper light armor, the Geist stuff, and then there's other stuff. Wicklow light combat stealth. So yes, no, it's not. There isn't a picture of it yet. But there's a few things in here. 4.3, you know, AI FPS turrets, which are going into contested zones and things like that. So you're going to get shot at on foot now by turrets, which is great. Ladder improvements. Yes, useful. Hopefully now I don't climb down the ladder with my head like this. That would be nice. I'd like to climb down it like a normal person. Cooperative zones. Not an event, not a sandbox. So yeah, you work together rather than get ganked by everyone. That'll be fun. Wicklow special ships. TAC, Golem, Terrapin Medic with upgraded components. Fine. And then the Volt Sniper. And of course, there'll be more in that as well, you know, with the story stuff. And I'm sure that's where the cooperative zones are coming. But, you know, great. Fine. And then hopefully bug fixes. And I think that's the bit that we haven't had from them, that it really annoys me that we haven't seen. They actually said back in March that there would be a bug fix roadmap, like you know, what their, I guess, their hit list of what they're trying to deal with. We still don't see that, and there is no metric. There's nothing for us as the community to see what the output of focusing on stability has been. There's, hey, here's the amount of bugs, here's the amount of issue council things we've resolved versus what's come in. You know, there's none of that, and that's not to say we won't get it, but it has been, what, 4 months now? It would be nice. I mean, you would hope, at least, they are keeping track of this stuff internally. It'd be nice for you and I to be able to see that stuff. We just haven't up until now, which is a little bit frustrating, right? But we'll go. So yeah. Wonder when the unique armor tech is coming in, like the tracker and stealth, not just the stars, but the tech to make them work. I don't know. I mean, it's not in there. I mean, I guess they can kind of stealth put that in terms of they can start to tweak movement rates and stuff. When they turn around and go, yes, we've applied that to all existing armor in the game, I think that's a big piece of work that sits outside the scope of what's going on at the minute. I'd love for it not to be the case. I've also loaded up here the video for Resource Drive. So I don't know if you guys want to go through this, and I'm sure most of us have seen it, but it might be interesting to go back on this now and see how much of this is applicable based on what we've seen so far. But I'll do a very quick poll. And see what you guys think. And if you want to go through it, we can. And if you don't want to go through it, we can. But if we have no clear winner, we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm just going to transition back once we go back. So the video is the Alpha 4.2.1 Resource Drive stuff. If you guys want to give that a go, it's entirely up to you. The one thing I will say is they do seem a little bit more humble than they were with the Fight Pyro stuff. There's a noticeable lack of nana in this video, so that's good. Boozy 350, we get to see their lies. Nice, we got a super villain in chat. I love it. We get to see their lies. Unearth their lies. Yeah, lies, damn lies, and statistics. Right, I like that. It's made me giggle. So yeah, I'm worried about paints. They sell just plain style paints, but previously they've said buying your paint patterns and we get hex code paints, change colours. Yeah, I don't see one as affecting the other. The question is how much of a priority is hex codes right now? Dramatic music to fill that in, but yes, you can't handle the truth, exactly. So yeah. Did you order the code red? So I'm guessing with 77%, what we're going to do is we're going to watch it. So I'm going to kill the cool background music. That sounds an awful lot like Star Wars, that one. Thanks, Pedro. And let's have a look at Alpha 4.2.1 Resource Drive. If it loads. Are you going to play? Are you going to play?
For the past 10 years, it's usually just been in our hands to make the decisions of what happens. We're hoping to start to give some of that control over to the players.
In the July patch, this is the first time you are going to get to have this lasting effect. This is just the start, but I'm excited to see where you and us go from here.
It would be nice if this was the start of a lasting of the universe changing based on what happens.
So this is a continuation of the Regen Crisis storyline you've been seeing unfold. You've seen how Rayari was trying to handle it. You've seen how ASD has responded to it with the nefarious Dr. Yorit.
Now we're beginning to see how the major 4 corporations are going to handle this. Imperator Addison has now relaxed scientific research as a means to try and further push the drive to really end this crisis across Stanton.
Does it feel to anyone like that's happened? Is there anything in the game that has given you the information, given you the feeling that anyone other than us is doing anything about this? Just saying.
And she's put up certain rewards for the megacorps who helps out the most or who solves the Regen Crisis. So now the 4 mega corporations of Stanton are in a race with each other to try and secure the reward for this contract. And a big part of this is it will be up to you as to which megacorp comes out on top. So the July patch will be a one-time thing. It will run for that first patch, and when the next patch comes out, it kind of...
This is the problem that I was alluding to. That all of these intro missions, which are these, other than that bit, which I didn't even read, because I don't read these missions. I look at the bit on the right, I look at the highlighted bits in blue, and then I quit out. Which is my fault for not reading it. But, you know, still that imagination. Yeah, under Imperator Addison's new Second Life initiative. So there's that, I guess. But there's that. So...
And the event is centered around gathering 3 main resources. So you can work for Microtech, Hurston, Crusader, and ArtCorp. And each track you work for will have 5 tiers of rewards that you will unlock based on your contribution.
We have a
yeah, so I thought before, because we seem to hand the mission, we got a lot more than I was expecting. But you can see here that these are SCUs, so you must hand in 1,582 SCU. In whatever configuration for each faction in order to make it. So yeah.
few major game loops that you can choose from. We can
Or whatever
start
the
with
max
hauling,
is. I think it's even more than that,
which
isn't it?
involves a player going out to a trade post, picking up the commodities that are of the corporation's interest and delivering them back to the corporation's LEO.
Then we have the recover cargo ship archetype. This was kind of first introduced in Welcome to Pyro, and then when we was doing the 4.0 refactor, it was one we didn't get to, but we've brought it back, we fixed it up for this. So how this one works is you go to a ship, it's already dead in the water, it has the supplies on it that you require, and your main goal is to get the supplies and take them back to where they need to be delivered. There might be a few pirates trying to pick that corpse clean, so you might have to dispatch some of them and then take the cargo. One important thing to note though is that if you don't have a ship big enough to take the cargo but you want to do this mission, we've left the seat on for you, so you can actually get in the seat and take the other ship, have a go.
So there was a couple of things that struck me when I first watched this, and this was one of them. Or the 2 things were, first of all, thank God you can work for all 4 corps. Corporations. That's a better way of saying it. The other 2 are a bit either not it or really not it. The other bit is this, is being able to take the ship and just move on, so that those with flying starter ships get involved, right?
Go flying this and take that back instead.
There's also Recover Cargo FPS, which involves locations like UGFs or abandoned FOBs. And there'll be several stashes of commodities needed that have been taken from important cargo ships and held there by outlaws. You need to go in, clear the outlaws, take the cargo and deliver it back to the corporations. As this event is primarily a ship and
Or if the ship gets destroyed, we have boxes at home. Yeah, absolutely. We're still told the main story mainly through a loading screen in ISC. 100% that.
hauling event, this is the only FPS mission that there is available.
Then there's support attack ship. This is one you've seen before. There's a ship, it's under stress, it's being attacked, it's being pirated.
Mayday, mayday, outlaws are attacking my ship!
It's carrying the valuable resources that are needed for that corporation. You have to turn up and make sure it gets away safely. And if it does, you are counted for its contribution. So because you helped it, they also sort of count those boxes for you. There's the Unlimited Resource Gathering mission. This mission will be asking you to get the 3 commodities in an infinite amount. It will never have a cap. The mission has no completion, per se, but everything you deliver, based on the SCU amount that you deliver, is the amount you're going to get paid for it.
Hey, Sneaky, welcome in. Oh, sorry, Sneak.
This you can keep open, you can abandon it when you don't want it, and you can re-accept it at any point. But the goal of it is to go and source your own materials, bring them back to the location, and submit them for your reward.
Microtech thanks you for all your hard work you've done recently. Keep your eyes peeled for a special something heading your way.
So basically this event is pretty much using all ship types that we have, with the exception of refueling and salvage.
It also encourages multiplayer gameplay.
Which are probably, right now, because of the event, probably the most reliable gameplay loops in the game, because not that many people are doing them. So it's probably a really good time to be a salvager, I'm not going to lie. Funny how this is the one event I've ever attempted, internal service error. Oh, mate. Yeah, that's rough. This event is somehow worse than Save Stanton. I'm enjoying it more than Save Stanton. Once you get past the intro missions, it's fine. I think naturally, because of the way server meshing works, when most players are attempting one thing, that struggles because it's a lot of calls to freight elevators and stuff. I think if you're willing to go outside of the standard, the path of least resistance stuff, and I think, do you know what? That is going to be a top tip for this game, full stop, the end. Those who take the path of least resistance are going to get, excuse my language, their shit pushed in regularly. Right? And the reason for that is really, really simple, is that people can anticipate it. When I go, for example, let's take mining, because mining in this event, when I fly down to a planet, I fly down manually. So I get to an orbital marker and I just aim for a spot on the planet that's away from facilities, and I fly down there and I use different ones, and I try to use, rather than the side that's facing the sun, I try to use one that's either going into darkness or just coming out of darkness. Better resources. And the other thing is that if you are going to pirate people on a planet, where are you going to head? Right? Everyone, because it's the quickest way to do it, because you can get more repetitions and therefore, in theory, more SCU and more credits an hour. People will quantum down to a location and then fly away from there. And as a pirate, all you do is you quantum down to locations and then you scan. Or even better, you wait for other people to scan and you see it happen. And then you go after them and you pirate them. It's going to be the same with trade routes. If you fly the shortest route from point A to point B, well, if I'm trying to pirate people, that's where I'm going to be with the Mantis and the pirate group that's going to take your cargo from you. So it's sometimes, like, the path of least resistance doesn't actually pay off, as people are discovering with this event.
If you want to work with others who are also fighting in your corporation, or you can just as easily contribute by playing by yourself as well. You will also have almost like a personal assistant dedicated to each corporation who will speak to you.
I was just wondering if you're going to help us out with another contract.
When you've accepted the mission and when you've completed it.
Carmichael here. Log your contract delivery. I'll mark you down as a win for Hurston.
Some are nicer than others. Some people just are there to make sure that you get the mission contract done, and some people are there to really encourage you to do better.
Well, everything looks in order. So
Yeah, Sneak, the intro stuff is really poor. It's really bad design.
Knowing that you help people today.
A really bad
That just
process.
depends on who you decide to side with.
Who are you back?
I am back in Crusader because the PA for Crusader is very nice and very encouraging and won't yell at you when you fail a mission.
Sorry, this contract didn't work out for you. Sometimes a job is just not the right fit.
And remember that you can work for any team, so just because another corporation is winning doesn't mean that you can't all pile on and help, I don't know, let's say Hurston win in the end.
There's no, again, this is the thing, right? If you're not interested, there's no reason to do that. So, for example, Microtech, if you don't like Microtech's armor, there's no reason to pile in. There's absolutely no incentive for me to do that, because I get everything that I could get with that somewhere else in colours I like more, for example. So, yeah.
Is that who you want to win, Hurston?
I'm just saying that they have a strong work ethic, and you know they're good at giving clear directions. And
This
maybe
is
they're
quite
not
funny.
as
Well done,
encouraging
Jared.
as Crusader, Millie, but you know they know what they need. They know what they need to get done. They get it done in plastic bags.
Fascist.
So that's all the things you can do. But of course, Why are you doing this? It's fun, yeah. The rewards. We have 5 tiers of rewards and then ending rewards for after the event. There will be post-event rewards. All of the rewards that I go over will be themed after the corporation that you choose to align with. Tier 1 is jumpsuit and multi-tool. Tier 2 will be
very good
an armor
at
set
communicating.
and a vault weapon.
Very good
After
at
that, we
communicating.
start going into your favorite ship skins. Tier 3 will be 3 ship skins and a vault weapon. Tier 4 will be 3 ship skins and a vault weapon. And Tier 5 will be 3 ship skins and a vault weapon.
Why so many vault weapons?
We just don't know what to do with them. They're just piling up. For now, I'm just going to
Yeah.
spread them about.
The Hearthstone Dynamics weapons do look good.
Huh?
They do look good.
Lightning is very cool, except when it hits you. That shotgun is... Zach really fucked up the balancing for that.
Views and opinions of William Maltby do not represent those of Cloud Print Games, Robert Space Industries, or its subsidiaries.
How do we track this? You're going to love to hear it. We've got a journal entry for you, but we've changed it before everyone starts going to the comments.
You can see the overall.
So this is actually bizarrely for me one of the best journal entry pages in the game. This and the rep side of it, and the rep side could be better, but this is really useful. I don't like a lot of the other pages, even though they are useful in game, like your ship layout and your landing zone, like your refueling and all that, and repair and rearm. But this is actually a useful page. It's just a shame it sits in and amongst all of this crap on the left-hand side.
Global corporation's progress across all servers, and you will also have a separate bar to see how much you've progressed or how much contribution you've made to the corporation.
Sounds like this is just play the game and we'll watch and give you rewards.
It literally is going to be play the game, and we'll watch you and we'll give you a few rewards, and I'll be playing alongside you. Go Microtech.
Absolutely sloth, 100%.
This patch has been a really interesting patch for economy because the balance is something we've been wanting to try for.
Podden. Apologies, I don't have my glasses on, so I'm trying to read and I can't quite see it. That is what that says. Oh no, MPCD. You can't do this to me when I can't find my glasses, man. That's just cruel. But yes, to answer your question, no, they're not. The one, and yes, they take more time and all that sort of stuff to achieve. The one advantage they have at the moment is that you are. So apparently UEC, yes. But in terms of the SCU, you progress down that bar exactly the same rate as stuff that's hauled. The big advantage at the moment is you don't have to get it out of public freight elevators, which is what everyone is struggling with at the minute and what is broken. The only problem I've had with refined ores is, unfortunately, once with a Taurus like kind of 3/4 full, it did the janky bounce around the hangar and explode thing, or more to the point, just despawn and then lose all of the cargo in the back of it. Yeah.
For a while, the balance between all of the different gameplay loops at the same time, which is great for the players, challenging for us. But hopefully it works, and hopefully you guys really enjoy it and you see that your contribution feels meaningful.
Why'd you pull the commodities out of the shop?
Okay, so in previous patches,
it was rubbish
when
last
we
time.
tried to do commodity gathering, we might have overlooked the possibility that people would spend most of their gameplay time standing in queues, trying to buy what meager scraps there were from shops.
Hey, John.
So we made it a lot easier
Congrats,
for you this
Stack.
time.
Good job.
It's not available in shops anywhere.
So, fast forward to the end. The Stanton Pyro jump point is going to be renamed to do with the winning corporation. We don't know the exact name yet, but it's going to be named to be sort of a hint to them. The landing zone, the low orbit station, and the jump point, which now will belong to the corporation that won, All 3 of those will get a permanent 5% shop discount across all of their goods, so it will likely maybe be cheaper to buy stuff in those areas.
Yes, it is really everything in the landing zone. Nothing is exempt.
And last of all, the winning corporation and those of you that hit tier 5 will get a elite armor. It will be a matte black version of the armor you got for tier 2 with a sort of highlight to emphasize the corporation that you was with. We've made all 4 of these. I'm giving 1 out. The other 3 won't see the light of day.
The other 3 won't see the light of day. It'll be interesting to see whether they stick to that or whether they become subscriber flair further down the road. But yes, that's the promise made. Jock Cop says, I've enjoyed it so far. A couple of adjustments will make it great. It's been fun to get stuck in. I think the important thing here is approaching it in a way that you are able to do it without having to deal with basically getting stuff out of a freight elevator. Putting stuff into freight elevators doesn't seem to be a problem, and using your own freight elevators after refined ores, you just store your ship, put it into your ship straight away, and then fly off. That's nice and easy. The problem becomes using the freight elevators for the hauling missions. It's a shit fight. It really is. It's bad. But yes, other than that,
I think the event is good because it focuses hauling and players who enjoy delivery missions, box missions, but it's also inclusive of those who don't enjoy those. This event shouldn't be a bottleneck. It's not using a new location.
Shouldn't be a what? Shouldn't be a what? What did you say?
It's using several of the locations that we've had before.
You're going to be spread out. You've got a bunch of different missions you can play. It's essentially just play the game the way you always have been.
You're not locked in to any of the corporations. You can work for whichever one you want. At any given time, you can max out the tier 5 rewards on all 4 of the corporations.
Exactly that, Sushi. Exactly that. Welcome in, by the way, my friend.
That's pretty cool.
And then at the end of it, you'll see the change that you had on our universe.
Conga Simulator.
I just hope people enjoy it. I hope people enjoy the kind of race to regen aspect of it, that you're all head to head, but you will eventually all have some kind of impact on the verse later after this event.
And there's not a single data pad you have to read.
No, I made sure of that as well. There is not a single data pad in this event. As minimal reading as possible.
Okay.
Gamers don't read.
Seeing that you were able to complete the delivery, thanks. And if you could do another, that'd be even better. Alright, gotta go.
And if we've done our maths right, Alpha 421 Race for Stanton should drop later today, with a complete Resource Rush global event, as well as your chance to earn over 60 different rewards and a permanent discount to the landing zone of your choice. It also includes the new RSI Meteor, a host of bug fixes, and the chance to rename the jump point from Stanton to Pyro. I'm hoping for jumping with Pointy Face, personally. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll see you in the verse hauling a whole lot of rocks this month.
Cool. I mean, I think yeah, it's the Argos expansion, the Greek god of pointless queuing. I'm not gonna beat around the bush, right? I'm pleased that they've gone for this event. They are obviously trying to give people the hauling gameplay, you know, and the non-PvP gameplay we've been asking for. Couple of issues with the implementation. Once you get past that initial bit, the only bit that I can say is from where you are, look at the other servers and the time zones that they run in. If you can get one in like the early hours of the morning, 5, 6 a.m., that sort of time, at a reasonable time for you, so it will be 5, 6 a.m. their time, and then a reasonable time for you, do that. Switch to that server. The lag is more than compensated for by the fact that it'll actually work. You know, failing that, if you can get a server with a very low pop, that'd be great. You're gonna have much more luck going for the less popular factions, so give that a go first. The Arc Corp and the Crusader ones, because there are less people on those servers, and because of the way the server meshing works, the more populated the server, not the shard, the more problems you're going to have with freight elevators. That just seems to be the way it's working. I had no problems. Arc Corp, first time. Crusader, first time. Microtech took 2 tries. Hurston took 4. So, that. Sushi Bandit, they tried, but this is a mess. It turned into PvP right after day 1 finished. People blocking elevators, intentionally breaking freight elevators, pad ramming, stealthing crates from people, etc., etc. So that, I mean, that's been happening. I don't deny that. I think what we've seen, the group of us that played over the weekend, I think there's one instance of that. I've seen a couple of times in chat people using med pens. I think the breaking the freight elevators, putting med pens down or something apparently does something. I don't know. That's not an invite for people to try it who haven't. But it's that sort of stuff. But the idea here of the server working together, of something non-combat, of something that's trying to access a bunch of gameplay loops to allow people to get involved, to use low-value resources. So I think a large part of why the piracy stealing stuff has not been anywhere near as prevalent as it has for things like Fight for Pyro, or the Blockade Runner, or any of that sort of stuff, is it's all low value stuff. You can earn far more just doing bounties, HRTs, MRTs, than you can by stealing it, and the amount of time it takes to take all that stuff away from people. So that's worked quite nice. That seems to be okay. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be the trolling and stuff that happens. I think making it as little benefit. So the only kind of the only benefit for those who engage in it is whatever weird satisfaction they derive by upsetting other people, and that's a whole therapy session in and of itself. If that's the only benefit they get from it, they get crime stat because it's all in Stanton. In theory, armistice zones, which makes it a little bit more difficult. You can't just get frustrated, pull out your gun, and kill everyone around you, right? You've got to go up into space, and you've got to have that ship that can do that, and take it to those locations. The other nice thing is if you don't have the intro mission, you don't know where the intro mission's being handed out. So you can't go and troll the intro mission. So once you've got through that pain and headache of the first mission, if you're able to do that very quickly, perfect. If you're not, getting through it is its own reward. And then you can then go into the space combat stuff, or the the FPS stuff, or the mining stuff. You don't have to touch hauling again, other than to get the stuff that you've secured by other means to the freight elevator that you need to drop it off into. I also kind of like the fact that you can choose the major landing zone, or you can choose the station. So you can head down to the major landing zone from somewhere nowhere near the station, and you get a much larger armistice zone. There's a lot more protection there. And of course there's never always going to be protection, but we got to remember that later on in the game, once they're able to make things like this much less beneficial to people, the intention at the moment is still that armistice zones get removed completely, and it all gets policed with the in-game systems. Don't know how that works, but that's what they want to do. Charlie McCulson, Synchronicity, welcome in both. I have to agree, people playing Polaris and Idris thinking they're going to get a pad is kind of a poor thought process, so they land on it. Well, yes, quite. There was a lot of ships mounting other ships. It was quite distressing. Best part of this event is a miners being able to not get irritated when a rock has 50% copper. Do you know what? I'd never thought of it like that, but no, good point. I like that a lot. Sushi Bandit says, distribution centres would have been perfect for this event. Not going to lie. 100%. Absolutely. Just a missed opportunity, right? In fact, we were told these things, they were going to be hubs, they were going to be like dungeon, kind of missions and all this, and they just seem to have kind of fizzled out into nothing, which is a real shame. Because obviously put a lot of effort into it, and then nothing. And that's not to say that they're dead and nothing's ever gonna happen to them. Of course it will in the future, but you're entirely right. Like the pads in multiple locations, the pads outside, all of that sort of stuff would have been great. And just adding those as extra locations would be perfect, right? Maybe even it's things like maybe they could have had the distribution centers, so you're indirectly helping. So you go to distribution center, you get less SCU progress, but you get a lot more credits. Like they could have altered it in that way, so had them as extra locations. They could have done all sorts of stuff. But again, they're operating within the bounds of what they've got at the moment. It's always worth bearing that in mind. And I know that excuse gets tired. I'm right there with you. Of course, it gets tired. But us being tired of that excuse doesn't make it any less valid. So yeah. Distribution centers even have instance hangars. Yeah, absolutely that. If I recall, only 2 corps have distribution centers in their area. Yeah, absolutely. So it's Microtech and Artcorp. Sorry, Microtech and Heston, which would have, they're the 2 leading ones, so that would have helped a lot because it would have reduced, well, I suppose it would have reduced the weight at certain locations. It wouldn't have reduced the server load, so the freight elevator problems would persist, right? But yeah. Apteryx, distribution centers are only present for 2 of the corps. Yeah, absolutely that. But, again, that was their choice. And one would assume that there will be distribution platforms for Horizon that later on they will create some sort of city-like one for ArcCorp. If they really want to, the possibility is there. The fact that they've, again, it's just, as people rightly point out, it's a missed opportunity to put in these huge facilities that have been massively underutilized up until now. Does bring up the position, will Crusader get more platform for landing? 100%. And in fact, you can see that if you go to, when you go to Horizon, if you go to the platforms away from the main areas, because they have embargoes, you can land on a lot of the platforms, and you'll see that they have doors built ready to go. The only thing that's missing is the keypad to open the doors. They have vehicle elevators ready to go. They have pads ready to go. So there is an intent on platforms we've never fought on before, and we've never been on. There's no reason to go on them. They're not the same ones as in Siege of Origin. They are ready to go. They have been built with habitability in mind, and one can only assume that what they will be later on, when there is permanent player housing, that these will be the platforms that we go to. Even if Crusader doesn't have them, they could use various mining bases or the stations in system. Yeah, and look, just because there's more options in one place than another, I mean, that just makes them easier to work for. But yeah, I don't think that would have been enough to sway people to go, I really like the Hurston stuff, but I'll work for Crusader because it's easier to find a place to land. I don't think gamers work like that. A lot of us don't, anyway. They could have used the jump gate stations, potentially, although I suppose that the thing there is because they're not owned by a corp. It's like, then who are you aligned to? But yeah, this is really a really interesting. The other thing here, of course, that's you can kind of see happening in the future is players becoming their own wholesalers. When there is a function for players to safely trade large commodities, right? When you put up a lot of cash for a commodity, you're getting a product out of it. And then, when you put up a large amount of commodity, you're getting paid for it. That player trading that's safe and secure, you can see here there's going to be definite reasons for players to stockpile goods and all that sort of stuff. Because someone who had stockpiled at this point, copper, corundum, tungsten, any combination of the above, could have made a huge amount of money here. Sushi, appreciate that, mate. Always welcome, mate. Thank you very much. But yeah, it's all good. I appreciate that. And Kasune says, I think CIG has been trying to shoehorn in these outposts because they're out in the open, and that creates more opportunities for PvP. No matter what, they'll always try to enable PvP. I mean, they're in what's the word that I'm looking for? They've got armistice zones though. So I mean, you could rock up with a torpedo and I suppose and hammer stuff, or an Idris or whatever, Polaris, but they're kind of big ships to do that, and that's a lot of money for not a lot of payoff. And the other thing is out in the verse, right? PvP is going to be an ever-present threat, and people just need to get used to it. I think, like we've said with and I don't mean people should get used to the griefing. Just to clarify before people jump on me in chat. One of the things I've always said about the criminal arc is that criminal gameplay should be just as engaging and varied as lawful gameplay. Because often, if you look at something like DayZ, for example, the only way you get to be a bandit is by killing players. right? Lawful can be anything. Lawful can be avoiding people. Lawful can be living on your own, hoboing in the middle of nowhere. If you want to mark yourself out as a bandit, the act of banditry in that game is killing people, right? Or if you want to, trying to hold them up and steal their stuff. But that comes with a hugely increased risk. Although they have like given you burlap sacks, you can put over people's heads and handcuffs, so you can, you know, kind of zip tie them or whatever else. So you can do that. I think here, if you know, if it's all about building rep with your criminal gangs or within a criminal organization, a criminal hierarchy, you know, criminal orgs going like, look, we're a criminal org, but that doesn't mean we're murder hobos. Like, we're smugglers, or you know, we are an assassin's guild, or we pull off heists. But the reason we pull off so many heists is because we don't kill people, and therefore the UE tolerate us a lot more than if we just went in and butchered everyone. So you know, we're gonna have issues with you rep wise if you go and just butcher people. You need to do non-lethal ways. And that way, then, of course, there will be the murder hobo organisations as well, and the ones that are just out there living lawless and killing anything that comes in arm's reach. Of course, to that. But if you make it that varied, then what it lets criminals do is like, hey, there's loads of ways for me to do this, loads of interesting and fun ways, just like the lawful guys. Why should criminal be a second-tier gameplay experience? Why should people who choose gameplay have any less fun and choice and options and really cool gameplay moments than people who do lawful? Because if you give them those stuff that doesn't just involve killing other players, you can be like, if I was going to go criminal in this, I would go Firefly, right? I would be the screw the man, big organization's bad, UEE tyrannical, but at the same time, I'm not out here killing people. Like, the average person is under the heel of the same organization that I don't like, whether they know it or not. It doesn't mean they're not living under that. So I don't want to kill people. I want to fight the man. That would be my chosen gameplay loop if I was criminal. If Star Citizen lets me do that, that's awesome, because there aren't a lot of games that enable that sort of gameplay. There really, really aren't. You know, even with Eve and stuff, it's that. Yeah, easier, higher success rate, more highly rewarded. Exactly. So I think most people would be perfectly fine with the amount of PvP if the permanent reputation system was in place. Absolutely that. There are a lot of systems that means PvP at the moment, to use Sushi's words in a different way, going out there and killing other players and ambushing them and all that sort of stuff is rewarding for them regardless of what the other player's doing. So you go to these locations and you ambush people. As a criminal at the moment, it's the most rewarding thing you can do because there's nothing else that comes anywhere near to it. If you give them options, you are of course still going to get the players who just want to engage other players. But you also, those players are going, well, this is the only way I can do the gameplay loop I want to do. This is the only way I can play the game that I want to. My only option is kill players, right? You give them something else to do, and I'm sure a lot will take it, even if it's that sort of stuff. Get used to the griefing. No, absolutely not, Apteryx. Don't you dare, you monster. But yeah. Yes, you're entirely right, and Casino. People can track you with that. Yeah, they're kind of damned if they do, damned if they don't. The fact that they made it so people cannot try to stow away on other players' ships at the landing zones and get relocated to the ASOP building is great for deterring pirates in this. That was a really interesting change. I've not snuck onto someone else's ship in a little while. I've done it at Hathor a couple of times, haven't we, Jamlack? We've been monsters for this. Kingdom of Games, hello, buddy. Welcome in. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so I don't know if that's a change just for this patch. Can anyone confirm? But it is a nice touch. Like I said, I'm quite lucky. Sushi, I think I've had a very different experience from yourself. Is, like I said earlier on in the stream, I've had a couple things where I've helped people unload their freight elevator. Not just like, get off the elevator so I can use it, but I've actually helped take, much to their shock, I think, take the things and I've stood at the back and kind of loaded it in for them, or passed it to them and they've loaded their ship. And some of them have even hung around and then helped me load mine, which has been really cool to see. And then we kind of waved at each other and off we went, sort of thing, with no voice comms whatsoever. Those moments are actually kind of cool. So, yeah. And then they got tried and tried pan ribbing. Yeah, that. you know, when you get frustrated with the game and you are at that location, it's the 7th time you've tried these intro missions, because the intro missions aren't the greatest format. You know, you can't make the blocker the thing you're trying to resolve. You really can't. You can't make the one gate into the event, oh, this is the thing that doesn't work, so let's make everyone do that before they can get involved in anything else. Whilst I don't think it's a good idea, I can absolutely see why people get annoyed and just go, I don't want to play this anymore, boost into other people's ships and then log out. It's frustrating, right? It's not the best way to deal with the frustration, but it's a game at the end of the day, and some people will just be like, well, why should I worry about anyone else's gameplay if CIG have made it avoidably that I can't enjoy it either? Not the best way to approach it, but I at least have some sympathy for those people until they do it to me, and then they just... I'm happy for them to keep that repositioning system of teleporting until they actually have a real hacking permission system. Yeah, exactly that. I don't care if they have no other way of enjoying it. That doesn't excuse them being a jerk. Yeah. Like I said, not the best way of doing it, but at the end of the day, it's a computer game and people will do these things, right? The trick is to minimize the reasons for people to do that, and that intro mission was not well thought out. Sangroper, hello, buddy. Welcome in. Good to see you. So yeah, one of my favourite things I've done in games so far: solo pilot and Idris play Pac-Man with starter ships and try and get the new players to pilot it. You have no idea when you're going to die and to what. I could just imagine this kind of new player going, "What's going on?" as the mouth of the Idris kind of closes over them from behind, like, if the only way they can enjoy the game is to give others a bad time, I'd rather do it without them. Yeah, absolutely. And look, I don't think everyone that's pad ramming is that. I think some people just get incredibly frustrated with it, and that's that, right? In kind of the same way, I know this is a bit of a stretch, but in kind of the same way that someone who breaks their monitor, it doesn't make them, it doesn't mean they're going around punching everyone all the time for all things, but getting frustrated and punching a monitor, like, is a moment of extreme frustration. Don't do it. It's bad and it's expensive, but it doesn't make them, that person all the time. And I think it's the same with a lot of this stuff, is sometimes people are there and, like I said, you're on your 7th or 8th attempt, you just had enough, you can't even bother to go log out. Like, it's not a good idea, but I get their frustration. Anyway, enough of that. There's a lack of consequences for the lawless side. 100% that. No, the answer is some actual punishment and not the limp hand slaps that they call Kalasha. Yeah. What would you go for, T-Jack? I'd be interested. What would it be? What would be the actual punishment? Are we talking like in game? Are we talking like account? Outside of game mechanics, like actual ban suspensions, that sort of stuff. Are you talking about something in game? The lawful and helpful players are engaging with the versus rules and etiquette, and they're the ones that are constantly getting the short end of the stick. It's a problem. 100%. Why should I play with the rules when no one else is? It disadvantages me and it advantages them not to do it. Why would I continue doing it? Yeah, I get it. There's an issue with that. No logging up from Clasher server actively. That works. What happens if I need to switch my computer off? How does that work? Oh, you mean so when you come back in, it doesn't count down unless you're in Clasher? Is that what you're after? So you have to serve your sentence in jail. That would be pretty harsh, but I get it. Eric 90K, hello, buddy. Welcome in. They really should have made the cargo available from instance hangars either at cities or distribution centres. This outpost, yeah, it is. It's not great. And it wouldn't be so much of a problem if it wasn't the intro mission. If that wasn't the mission you had to complete to get access to the other types of missions, it would be a lot less of an issue. It really isn't at the moment. It is the gate, and it is a problem. It's a serious problem. The only bit of advice I can give you is access servers from regions where it's the early hours of the morning, i.e. the sort of time when people are getting up to go to work, 5, 6 in the morning, and try the ArcCorp and Crusader ones, because those servers tend to be less stressed because there's less people doing them, because you will find a difference between servers on the same shard. So you might have real problems doing the Microtech or the Hurston ones, but ArcCorp or Crusader might work on that same server. So, Daily Noob, hello, buddy. Good to see you. I'm in late and no idea what's going on, but as a Spectrum enthusiast, I strongly disagree with something and will argue even if you prove me wrong. Mate, I appreciate your dedication to the Spectrum stuff, but, you know, dude, don't do Spectrum. It gives you the dumb. It's bad. Welcome in, my friend. Good to see you. For those that aren't aware, Daily Noob is the premier Star Citizen streamer over on Twitch. He is well worth a look, does fantastic work over there. Very chill streams, engages with his community an awful lot. Lots of jokes. You need to be a little bit of an adult over there because, you know, they deal with some adult topics. There's some adult humour and all that sort of stuff. But well worth a look. I'm just going to post his link now. Go and check him out. Go and show him some love. It's great stuff. And looking forward to, hopefully, at some point in the near future, Daily Noob and I getting to meet in real life, which will be exciting, and it possibly being over, well, it will be over the CitizenCon point, so maybe we'll do something for that. Looking forward to it. If we can pull it off, we will do, and I guarantee it will be fun and alcohol fueled. So yes. Catalyst Destiny, welcome in, buddy. A friend and I have just been doing some large haul contracts per day what we can, chipping away at progress as we can in the meantime until they patch the mess. Absolutely that. The other thing, of course, is there are other options, but I get it. Picking up a prospector is not something that people can do it instantly for a lot of people. And the other stuff, maybe you're not into the combat, I get it. And it kind of leaves hauling as your only option there. So yeah, we can only hope that this allows them to target whatever the hell is wrong at the back end of freight elevators and finally get something to work. If they could work, you know, 80-90% of the time, that would be a massive improvement over this mess right now. But yeah. Yes, I need to sort out details about CitizenCon stuff with you when you have some time. Absolutely. Back at work this week, but I will reach out to you at some point, mate, and we'll figure something out. Bottom line, you know, you're welcome here. You know, and I've set this time aside, so we just need to sort out the particulars. So yeah. In game, in my opinion, for the law system should be a hostility scale. You do lawless stuff and stuff costs more. Maybe you get attacked on certain missions, but you also gain access to lawless vendors. Yeah, it should be. They should be completely opposite mirrored systems, right? In exactly the same way as you progress as a lawful player, you progress as an outlaw player. It should be the same thing on both sides. Yeah, just played a few hours per day with 50% to tier 5 reward for our first corp. Nice, good work, mate. That's good stuff. Sloth's already a follower, that's good. Are you on Twitch badges? Not at the moment, Matthew. Looking to get there at some point in the future. Twitch is a very different streaming space to this, and I think to be successful, I would need to add some other stuff on. It's also a different style, whereas this is a lot more conversational. Sometimes with Twitch, I feel like you need to be a little bit crazier with different bits, and it can be quite jarring, I think, when you're on YouTube and Twitch, for, you know, you to react to something on Twitch, like some emote or something put on screen, and everyone on YouTube's like, what is he talking about? So I might end up streaming at alternate times on those and doing a little bit more gameplay maybe for Twitch. We'll see. Twitch is more gamified. Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit more of a crazy space, but I'm certainly open to the idea. Yes, the Knicks release stream. I look forward to it. Terex, you are absolutely convinced it's Knicks. Like I said, I will eat an item of clothing if it's not. But yeah, how's my week off? Good, thank you, mate. Restful. I'm straight back to it tomorrow, unfortunately. But yes, we're getting there slowly. We are getting there slowly, so it's all good. Yeah, we'll see. Badger's hot tub stream. Nobody needs to see that. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Do you think Apollo will come for SitCon? If not SitCon, then I think SitCon will likely be, you know, maybe a ship that we're expecting and a ship that we're not. Or, you know, an unannounced ship. I'm sure we'll know about it a couple of weeks before, because it always happens that way. But yeah, I think it's if not at SitCon, definitely IAE. It's this year, right? It's certain that it's going to be this year. Same with the Perseus. Do it, says Jock Cop. No, absolutely not. Do I get to pick the item? No, because if I have to buy some edible clothing or buy some clothing, I'm gonna buy edible clothing. No, you absolutely, yeah, and it definitely doesn't be like it's got to be a sock, but it's a sock that you've worn for 3 days and not washed. No, you don't get to do that. game needs Terra IMO. It needs all those systems, and I think even with 5 systems, the game space is still very limited for what they're building for. They're building for a game with a lot more systems than that. So the ideas of carriers and, you know, effectively the space version of an amphibious assault ship, all that sort of stuff. The real value of that is only going to become apparent when we have a lot more systems than 5. Just means it's going to be a long... Okay. Sweet necklace G-string, says Matthew. Do they even make those, Matthew? I don't even know. Is that a thing? How do you know that's a thing? How do you know that's a thing, Matthew? How do you know that sweet necklace G-strings are a thing? Is there something you want to tell us? So yeah, Drake's own event thing was foreshadowed. They didn't get anything at Invictus. Do you think they may hijack Sitcon in some manner for the Ironclad drop? Possibly. Yeah, that would be cool. Stream means more sausage. No sausage this stream, Commander Jackal. Once was enough. Once was enough. We're not doing that again. And this is why I like YouTube rather than Twitch. Because no one can put a clip up of me doing that again. So, you don't get that. So there. I hope the Ironclad comes soon. Because I got the Assault, but I'm worried they'll hold it for next year. Yeah, so the only question about the Assault, Enkasune, is whether or not the repair bay that's supposed to come with it, whether that's enough to hold it back under the whole we only release ships with their gameplay, right? It's the reason that the Legionnaire's been ready for a while, we think. It was certainly touted to come out, I think, last year. It's obviously been held because there's no hacking gameplay, right? Or they stopped work on it because there's no hacking gameplay. And without hacking, the Legionnaire becomes just a very weird, weirdly executed semi-dropship. So, yeah. Got to watch out how eager they are from the front. Exactly that. So that's where we are. Some interesting issues with game design. I didn't quite get to the game design stuff that I wanted to talk about in terms of mission design and things. I think that might end up being a video. Because now I've had a little bit of rest and now I've got a couple of weeks at work where I might have some room to breathe. I might look back to getting a video. No promise on dates or whatever, but videos in the near future. It might be that I do a couple of shorts on armor to just wet people's whistles. It's basically like everything we know about different types of armor in a short. And I know some people don't like that, but it'll wet my whistle, get me back into the habit, and then I can go and make some proper, like this, video content. And that'll be good. No one can be put a clip of that, at least not easily, maybe. Sounds like a challenge to me. Yeah, you can't post links. I've turned that off, so no. I'm not used to this, so yeah, no hacking gameplay. Oh, wait, gameplay. Yes, exactly. That's it. But yeah, so it's been an interesting time for Star Citizen. We can only hope that they get to the problems soon, or at least get us a couple of hot fixes that make it far more reliable. If you are looking for people to do this sort of stuff with, then link to Discord's in the description. By all means, come and join us on Fridays, 9 PM UK time, so the same time this stream started, but on a Friday night. We go and do Friday night shenanigans. It used to be Friday night ops. It got downgraded because we didn't feel like we were quite at the level of ops, so it's shenanigans now. You'd be more than welcome to join. Don't need to be part of the org. Don't need to be part of any of that stuff. You can just come along, come chill out and chat with us and play some games. You would be very welcome. It would be great. Sausage clips in Discord. Well, that's going to be enough to get people to go and be in Discord anyway. Thanks, Stunner. I know I could count on you. It's been a good day. We've hit the 2 hour mark, so I am going to love you all and leave you. But again, thank you very much for being here. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.